Welcome back to my YouTube channel, guys. My name is Ayomide, and in this tutorial I would be sharing how to cut this overbust corset blouse. The good thing about this corset is that you can make it as a top, you can even make it into a dress, you can modify it into whatever style that you want. So if you want to learn how to do this, then you should see this video up until the end. If you haven't subscribed, please click on the subscribe button and let us jump into this tutorial. For this corset blouse, these are the measurements that I made use of. So guys, to begin, this is the fabric I am going to be working with. It is a damask fabric. I've had it for quite a while and I just thought it would be a perfect fit for this corset blouse. On my pattern paper, I have gone ahead to mark up my lines. Right here, I have my chest line, I have my bust line here. Here is my underbust, the waistline, and the full length of this blouse, which is 21 inches. The very first thing I will do is to take half of my shoulder measurements. 16 divided by 2 is 8, so I just marked it right there. I'll be dropping the shoulder by 1 inch and I'll be taking 3 inches for the neck width, as we do for our standard basic bodice pattern drafting. Once I was through with that, I went ahead to draw my armhole line. So I just placed 8 inches again on my chest line so that I can have a perfect straight line. I'm still going to be using my marker to reinforce my pattern later on. So after that is done, the next thing I will do is to place half of my bust span measurement on the bust line. I'll just mark 3.5 inches on the bust line. Then I'll move on to the full length line and mark 2.5 inches. I'm doing this because I want the dart line to be slanted. Once I am done with that, I will now place my vertical measurement. On the chest line, I'll be placing a quarter of the bust measurement. On the waistline, I'll be placing a quarter of the waist measurement plus 1 inch dart allowance that I have already drawn. And on the hip line, I'll be placing a quarter of the hip measurement. I'll be connecting all these points together. After that, I'll go ahead and draw in my armhole. So I'm marking 3 inches above the chest line, coming by 0.75 inch, and then draw in my armhole. To mark my bust dart, I'll be deducting the shoulder to waist measurement of the front from that of the back. For that of the front, I have 16 inches and for the back, I have 15. So the difference of 16 and 15 is 1. I am marking 1 inch beneath the bust line measurement. I'll connect it to my dart and this would serve as my bust dart. Now I will do my underbust tightening and I'll do this by marking 1 inch on either side of the dart on the underbust line. I marked 1 inch because I want that place to be really cinched. Then on the waistline, I will take half an inch on either side of the dart. This would mean that I have taken an additional 1 inch away from this pattern and I'm doing this just to cinch our waistline. I'll move on to the hip line and take 0.75 inch away on either side of the dart. I'll be connecting all of these points together in this manner. This is what my pattern looks like after connecting. Next, I'll be getting the midpoint of my shoulder slant and I'll connect that midpoint to my bust line. So guys, I'll be taking out some portion of my pattern paper away so I can continue drafting this pattern. Next, I'll be splitting that line that cut through the shoulder slant so I can close my bust dart. I'll be closing my bust dart temporarily. Also, as a result of the closing, I will need to smoothen my sides so that all of my lines can match up appropriately. After that is done, I would need to draw in another style line, and to do this, I'll be taking half of the measurements I have left from the dart to the side seam. So I have 4 inches, half of 4 is 2 inches. On the full length line, I'll be marking about 1.5 inch. Then I'll be connecting the line in this manner. So you want to make sure that your line is slanted. After connecting the lines, I'll go ahead and take 0.25 inch away on the waistline. So this would mean that I have taken an additional 1.5 inch for cinching on my waistline. Remember, I took an additional 1 inch before, so now I am taking an additional half inch, making a total of 1.5 inch. This would ensure that your waistline is well cinched. Moving on guys, I'll be releasing my bust darts. Remember I said I'll be closing it temporarily, so I'll release it so that I can draw a line above the chest line. To draw this line, I'll be marking 2 inches above the chest line. This line is not supposed to be too high, else your neckline would just be unnecessarily high. After marking the 2 inches, I'll connect it into a straight line. Then I will now close my bust dart again temporarily. Next, I'll be marking the dart opening as a result of closing the bust dart, and I have 2 inches. So I'll put these 2 inches in mind. After that, I'll be extending my shoulder slants in this manner. So just draw a straight line. That 2 inches that I marked, I'll divide it into 2. It will give me 1 inch. So I'll mark 1 inch away from the armhole and also mark 1 inch away from this side of my pattern. I'll be connecting that 1 inch to my bust line. After that, I'll be measuring that dart that was created in this area of my pattern. So I had about half an inch. I'll just place half an inch on the other side of my dart and connect. Another thing you can do is to just mark 1 inch again on your shoulder slants, just the same way you did, and connect them together. So either one works. So guys, in this manner, I have created a dart above the bust, and this would help tighten that region and prevent gaping. Moving on, I will need to redraw my armhole. Remember that 1 inch that I marked away from the armhole. I'll be connecting it back to my chest line. This would create a new armhole for me. It is now time for me to draw my neckline. To do this also, I'll be releasing my bust dart. So I'll grab my pattern master and turn it in this manner. I'll mark about 1.2, 1.5 inch beneath that line. I'll connect it first of all to the first dart. Then I'll try and close this dart right here so that I can continue my neckline. So in order for me to conveniently close this dart, I would need to slash open my bust dart. Slashing through the bust dart enabled me to conveniently close that dart above the bust. I'll grab my pattern master and continue my neckline. I would make sure the neckline cuts across the new armhole line that I drew, and this would be my neckline. I would use my tracing wheel to transfer my neckline across the darts so that when I am cutting my pattern, one pattern will not be shorter than the other one. So guys, after everything, I can now conveniently close my bust darts. I'll just grab my tape and secure my bust darts in place. This dart right here, the second dart line right here, I would make sure it's cut across my new neckline. I'll grab my pattern master and just make sure the line cuts across it this way. Now I'll need to account for some measurements I took out on the hip line. Remember, I took 0.75 each on either side. That will make a total of 1.5 inch. So I'll just mark 1.5 inch away and withdraw my hip line in this manner. After that, I'll mark 1.5 inch above the hip line and I would connect it to my full length line in this manner, so that I can have a curve beneath. So guys, I'm done with my pattern and I have my center front here, the middle and the side front. I'll be cutting this out and you would see the outcome. First, I would go ahead and cut out the neckline. I would also take out the excess pattern at the hem and take out at the side and then cut it through the new armhole. This one is very crucial. Next, I'll be splitting my pattern. So I'll take out the second dart. Then I'll take out the first dart. I'll also take out the dart above the bust. I'll repeat likewise for the center front area too. So guys, I am done cutting and this is what my pattern looks like. I've got the center front, the middle front and the side front. It is now time for us to work on the back. For my back pattern, I've gone ahead to draw in my shoulder slant and also draw in my armhole. What I'll do next is to place my vertical measurements. On the chest line, I'll place a quarter of the bust measurement. On the waistline, I'll place a quarter of the waist measurement plus 1 inch that allowance. And on the hip line, I'll place a quarter of the hip measurements. I'll be connecting all the points together. After that, I will be coming downward on the chest line by 1.5 inch. This would serve as the neckline for the back. I'll connect it to the side of my pattern in this manner. Next, I'll be dividing my waistline into 3 equal parts. 8 inches divided by 3 will give me about 2.6 inch. I'll be connecting those points into a straight line. This would serve as the line where I'll be taking my darts from. A quarter of the waist measurement I am working with is 7 inches and I added 1 inch for that, making 8 inch, and I've accounted for that on my pattern. So I'll be taking half an inch on either side of one of the lines and I'll be drawing in my darts. Also, in order to further cinch my back waist, I'll be taking an additional 1 inch dart away on the second line. So I'll be marking half an inch on either side of the second line. I'll be drawing in my dart again. After that is done, I'll still take away an additional half inch from the side. I'll mark half inch and redraw my side. Looking at the hip line of the back, I did not take out any measurements, so I'll just reconnect back to my original hip measurements. I would also take out some measurements from the center back. I'll mark half inch from the hip line and I'll mark about 1.5 inch from the neckline. I'll be connecting it together. After this is done, I'll go ahead and cut out my back pattern. I would also ensure I label the pattern before cutting it into different parts. So here I've got my center back, the middle back, and the side back. On the center back right here, I'll be placing highlights. You can also place loops if that is what you want. So guys, after labeling, I will then cut this out. Guys, these are all of the pattern sets that I am going to be working with. What is left is to place this on my fabric to cut. I have gone ahead to fold my fabric into two, place my pattern on it. Here I am adding half an inch seam allowance to all the sides, after which I'll be cutting this out. After cutting, I went ahead to notch the crucial areas like the waistline, the underbust, the bust line. This will help sewing easier as I can easily match up my fabric pieces. I am done cutting both the front and the back, and these are all of my fabric pieces. In order not to make this tutorial too long, the sewing tutorial will come in a separate video. If you like this video, kindly give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, turn on your notifications so that when I post a new video, you would be notified.